He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute! Attention, citizens of Fair Gotham. Welcome to Bat Minute of the Phantasm, the show that tumbles through each and every minute of the animated feature Mask of the Phantasm. I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
And I'm here, noted born loser, Niall McGann.
Don't say that about yourself, Niall. You've got to big yourself up.
No, that's maybe some other time.
I'm one of those people. I can't big myself up too much. I can settle with, I'm okay.
I was always thinking that thing. Was it one of the Simpsons that Ed Norton's in? I remember him just saying like, "Oh, I'll stop sucking later." I just have that in my head all the time. Like, I'll do it tomorrow.
Oh, well, someone who doesn't suck is our guest. First time guest. We've got a newbie, people. How many newbies have we had this season? Is this the first one?
No, we had Rob O'Connor never been on previously.
Oh, that's true. I assumed he had because we talked to him all the time.
Yeah, we've met him in person prior to recording with him, but he knew us through the podcast, which is like an unusual sequence of events for us. But
it was very strange. But yes, a newbie, a wonderful newbie. We are joined by artist and animator Jeremie Duval.
Hey there. What's up?
Hey, thank you for joining. You are a long-time listener, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. I remember because I do a lot of art, a lot of animation. And when you're doing that, you kind of want to put something in the background, zone out. So, yeah. I remember when you were doing the first movie, the first 89 one.
Yeah. Those happy days long ago.
Well, yeah, that must have been years ago.
Yeah, that was like 5 years ago now. It's crazy how long
5 years?
We were kids.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, before we even get into like the minute, Jeremy, like we do always ask people about their history with this film and also the Batman animated series in general. But like knowing that you've gone into the field of animation, was this in any way like an influence on your work, or are you here to go? I'm telling you now, this animation stinks. It's the worst I've ever seen.
Well, I mean, working on it is certainly it's a lot easier to watch it than to make it, and nowadays with AI, it's getting out of hand. What people can do, with the whole. How that can be, there's gray lines there with plagiarism and all that. But as a traditional animator, I kind of I absolutely love this. This is one of my influence. Absolutely, one of my shorts on YouTube is Batman in 1 minute. It's like a 1 minute little or 30-second. That was a 30-second Batman.
Oh, you've got to do a minute-long one now to fit in with this.
Yeah, sure.
You just take that short and just like play it at like half speed. And then
The minute starts with some Bronski Bozos, and it ends with the beginnings of a crushing realization.
Yep.
See what I did there?
It's gotta hurt.
This is for me like I think this is one of the best minutes of the movie, too. Just like the outcome of what happens to Buzz Bronski, because it stayed with me from when I was a kid. Of like, holy Christ. Like this. You always watch the show. The show would do like pretty messed up things, but they never had like a guy getting crushed to death. Like, it was really like, usually there'd be something. They had a great episode actually called, I think it's called You Can't Take It With You. And it was one of those ones where you watch it and you're like, how is this show for kids? Like it's all about like a gangster who keeps having like panic attacks because he has a traumatic memory of when he was a child, like his little brother getting his foot caught in the railroad tracks and the train coming directly barreling towards him.
I remember this.
It's all about like Batman kind of like trying to redeem his soul, and there's a lot of like really adult themes going on there.
Wow.
But even at the end, so the whole episode, you're thinking like, oh, is this kid going to get hit by the train? Is that what happened to him? And so it's like, no, the kid's still alive. It's like his brother, and he's a priest now.
And it's clearly a metaphor and all that.
Yeah. But you're really like, they probably did want to kill the kid.
Yeah.
But they're like, you can't have a kid get mowed down on a Saturday morning cartoon. But in this, it's like, oh, you can crush this guy, no problem. Although, we'll get into it. That's not what they were originally going to do to him, and what they were going to do to him is much worse. So,
Wow.
Well, we've brought it up a few times already, but we've got to repeat it again with this minute. It's shocking that this is geared towards children.
oh, yeah.
Like the whole thing. It's both because of the content and because I think they'd be bored by a lot of this. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, because you liked it as a kid, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, what do you, Jeremy? Like, at what age did you see? Were you like the one person who went to see this in the cinema when it came out? Or?
Well, I remember, a lot of my memory is movie, like when I can remember movies very well. My real memory is not so good, but when it comes to movies that I saw, I can remember like time periods based on the movies. You can link them up that way. I remember being in the movie theater and seeing not the coming attractions, but the poster in the lobby, right upside next to there was like Super Mario Brothers was there.
Oh, yes.
You had Phantasm. You had like The Mask was coming soon. You're like, oh, what is this green guy? That sort of stuff. So I never did see it in the theater though. I saw it later, but this animated series, I was watching it right from the beginning, from before. I'm originally from France. Before I was even in America, I was watching it. So yeah, a lot of fond memories with this.
Oh, so what was did they have it dubbed in France?
Oh, no. I saw when I saw it. Yeah, it would be in French if you saw it there. But I was watching the show in France, and then eventually the movie came out in America. So when I saw it, by the time I saw it, it was the American version.
But so like, what did French Batman sound like? Is he like the unsung, like, oh, Kevin Conroy got nothing on this guy?
He has a real high squeaky voice. No, I don't remember. It was so long ago. But yeah, Kevin Conroy is the definitive Batman. I'm for sure about that. Holy moly!
I've mentioned it on the show before, but like I always like to bring it up because I went to France during the summer of The Dark Knight. And I remember always thinking, like, I love that movie so much. And I was like, what a great title, The Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you couldn't make any cooler a title than that. And then I saw the posters up in France, and it was Le Chevalier Noir. I was like, oh my God, they did it. They made it sound even cooler.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that does sound pretty good.
That's a real fascination of mine, too, that, like, the person they get, because you get some actors always are like brought in to, we'll have to look into actually if Kevin Conroy does have a guy who comes in to dub all his stuff, because some actors do get like, Harrison Ford might have like, it's always the same, Russian Harrison Ford or whatever they got.
I like that, because I think if I spoke another language, it would help me connect, with that
consistency,
actor.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's weird.
Consistency.
It's weird if you see it and like, wait, that's not that guy's voice. It was like a different voice the last movie I saw him in.
We always had the thing like a big celebrator of Spanish Homer. Spanish Homer Simpson.
Yes.
And you see it on YouTube, just like the video's like, this guy's incredible. And then since then, it wasn't just me, because it's like, they made little documentaries about him, and like everybody loves him.
Spanish Homer.
He's absolutely fantastic. I want to listen to all of them. If I remember, German Homer was pretty cool.
I must actually, I've always been like, I don't need to watch The Simpsons again because I've seen it so many times, but I might actually finally, now with the magic of Disney Plus, be like, screw it,
rewatch in German.
Yeah.
You want to.
Yeah. Well, talking about different cultures here, I've noticed this consistently throughout like this entire graveyard sequence. That like you see a lot of these headstones, and there's like a Celtic cross, which I was very like, oh, here we go, the Celtic cross, pride of Ireland in me there seeing. But I've noticed there's a lot of like. I mean, the thing is, because I come from Ireland, where it's like notoriously there's basically like two religions, and they're basically the same religion. But there's always that thing of like you would never get a Catholic and a Protestant buried near each other. There's a Catholic graveyard and there's Protestant graveyards, and everything else in between is not our problem. Deal with it yourselves, kind of thing.
Wow.
But I was surprised to see here, like as Buzz is running through, you can see a Star of David, and you see it right next to a Celtic cross.
Yeah.
I was even asking like a friend of mine who's Jewish, and I was saying to her like, would that happen? And she's like, well, a lot of if you're really practicing Jewish, you would, you do buy in. Families tend to buy into like lots and stuff like that, and all could stay together. But a lot of the time, you just fire. If someone dies, it's not really that into the religion. They'll just stick a Star of David on the tombstone, and there you go. Wow. And next to it, actually, around like about 6 or 7 seconds, there's like a little thing. It's like a spire with like a half crescent on top.
Yeah, that was interesting looking.
Let's try and find out what the hell that is. Like, it's not it's not a tomb symbol that I put it to Facebook, and someone said it might be based on like the Buddhist symbol.
Maybe that would make sense. Like in that it's trying to show us it's a multi-faith graveyard, but I don't think it is that.
I see it now. Looks like a taco.
I think, but then if you see like the Buddhist symbol, that's almost like a wheel of a pirate ship. Like it's gonna circle with spikes sticking out of it and stuff.
Yeah.
That's what this looks like, half of that. But I guess this guy was thinking like half-assed Buddhist. Where he's just like, kind of into it, on weekends, I guess.
That'd be me. Like, well, it's all right.
I bet what it is, it's probably the layout artist, just trying to make the most obvious iconography they could think of and just trying to vary it up a little bit. So it's not just a bunch of crosses everywhere.
It looks like someone set a bear trap, and it's been
It
snapped.
does look like that.
Well, when you asked on Facebook now what it was, I did use Google Lens to be like, to do a search, and that was what came back. Bear trap.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe this is like a separate trap that Andrea set up. She's like, no, this isn't going to work, man. The stick with the bear trap on top of it. I'm going to have to go to plan B here, I think.
But as these goons like leap into action, to save their screaming superior, and I really liked their complete impotence in the scene, because as soon as they realize that the boss isn't where he's supposed to be, they panic and they're like, boss, they have no idea what to do. Are they assuming it's like a rival gang's hit?
I guess so, because I guess maybe their entire job is to be this guy's security. They took their eyes off him for 2 seconds, and they're like, boys! Like,
and he's disappeared. Like, they don't know where the hell he's gone.
they must be annoyed, though, because this is like that business of, Axl Rose showing up for concerts 2 hours late because he's sleeping in his trailer, and then him blaming the security, and the security going, like, the one rule on tour with Guns N' Roses is that you never wake Axl Rose. You just don't do it. So they might be like, well, he told us not to follow him. Like he says, leave me alone for a minute. And then this happens. So we're going to get blamed for this, even though we're just doing what he said to do. Like,
I'm someone who, in the line of work, I stick to what I'm told to the letter. Yeah. And if it's wrong, then it's not my fault. Yeah.
Original draft, they murdered Axl Rose, but they changed it.
Yeah, little known fact. He was the mob boss.
Yeah.
This is just, who is the Phantasm? It's like, well, he's wearing a giant top hat. I think I know who it is. For all those times, just screwed me over, Axel. Instead of an axe on his hand, it's an actual guitar, like an axe.
Yeah. It works.
Well, here's a question, though, right? So, as this goes on, Buzz flees through the graveyard, and then eventually sort of falls ass backwards into a dug grave.
Yeah, he falls victim to one of the classic blunders.
Yeah. Didn't Homer Simpson do that?
He did, yeah.
Anyone in this dead-blasted cemetery did?
Because isn't that how he meets his mum?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Although that's probably been retconned now with the new ones. Because now it turns out Homer grew up in the 90s. It's like, no, he didn't.
Although someone pointed out the other day, even back in the heyday of The Simpsons, is like, well, there's an episode where you see Homer as a teenager ignoring the moon landing because he's listening to music.
Right.
And then, like, a season later, they had him at Woodstock as a toddler.
That's true.
And Woodstock is after the moon landing. It's like, well, they were already doing
it. Animation. You could do any, like even Batman. It's all over the place. They got internet. They got 1940s vehicles. They got.
I've watched an entire breakdown. People trying to work out like the age of, and they're positive too. Like, well, the flashbacks of Mask of the Phantasm would technically take place in 1981. But then they're going like, well, so, and they also, it's a really, really detailed breakdown someone did on YouTube where they're going through. It's like, yeah, so he could have been born anytime between 1960 and 1973. It's like,
quite a big range.
Yeah, that's like a massive gap. And then following that logic, that means he's like 20 in Mask of the Phantasm. As a fully grown adult, that doesn't make any goddamn sense.
It's best not to think about it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, though, Paul Dini has said that Harley Quinn is designed to be 28. I was I always would have thought, like, well, you have to have 7 years of medical school, and then you can become a psychiatrist. But I guess maybe that if you take it that she's literally, like, fresh out of psychiatry school when she meets the Joker, I guess it would kind of add up to being about...
28's not stretching it, the idea too much. Like, I know she acts young, but she can't be any younger than that.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, okay. Although I always got the impression that she'd been practicing for a while when she met the Joker.
Yeah, I'm always shifting the goalposts. I think Paul Dini has said like 35. Batman in the series, he's 35, and then
he's got
I
a
always
much older vibe to me though.
Well, that's like when I was a kid, I'd be like, oh, I guess he's probably old. He's probably like 30. And then now that I am 35, I was like, no, he's like 42. Come on, don't do this to me. Like, he's got to be like a couple of years away yet.
He's an authority kind of figure. He's like your dad, even though you're 35. You know?
Yeah. So I'm refusing to believe, like, no, I'm not the same age as Batman. No. I'm older than Christian Bale was when he played Batman, but that doesn't count. Like,
wait, for real?
Yeah, you think he was 30? He was 32. Heath Ledger was 28 when he played the Joker. So.
I don't mean this as an insult, but they both look a lot older.
Yeah. Oh, Heath Ledger, that's really
mature.
tragic, though, considering, like, oh, Heath Ledger's sad anyway. It's like, that guy wasn't even 30 when he died. It's like, that's how crazy that death was. But
yeah. What a legend. Yeah.
But the question is, though, so yeah, he does, as you said, John, falls victim to one of the classic blunders. But here's the thing. So, do you guys think that the Phantasm set this up? Or is this just a random happenstance that, like, because it has the vibe of, like, oh, he's fallen in this grave, I'll just tip this thing over on him. Or is there more to it? Like, is it... Because I think if this was planned, I would want to emphasize more than it was planned.
Yeah, you'd have his name on the stone.
Yeah. Oh, you really get into Ghost of Christmas Future stuff there.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought was going to happen the first time I watched this. I was kind of upset. So that makes me think it's got to be a coincidence, right? Because when you see the way he falls in, there's loads of directions he could have gone. And the Phantasm hasn't like funneled him along a really narrow path. Like it's they're just slowly walking after him.
Yeah. There was probably going to be a murder, however it was going to happen. Maybe there was a whole Wile E. Coyote set of traps that the guy like avoided. Maybe there's an anvil like floating above.
Wow.
Giant X.
The bear trap on a stick.
The bear trap. Yeah. Finally,
there's like 50 traps they have to take down afterwards. Like, oh god damn it, he didn't set any of these off.
I'll be like, yeah. Then in the next minute, when they're like, it's the stinking bat. It's just like Andrea picking up all stuff. Like, yeah, I'll be out of here in a minute. Give me a second, would you? But no, I feel like if it was planned, I think you could have gone way trippier with it and had like him running. Like there's multiple phantasms around, but it's all like cutouts or whatever Andrea set up.
Yeah.
But make it seem like this is full on supernatural, where he's like going this direction, it's there, and he goes the other direction, but they're all designed to lead him to this grave, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then why not have his? There's so much effort though to like, I custom made a giant angel, carved his name in it, and then like Batman, I guess would be like, well, I'll track down whoever ordered that angel, I suppose.
They get the bulk discount,
Yeah,
could have been 3D printed.
That's what happened in the Batman Begins. Didn't he make he's ordered the mask to be made, and he had the ears made somewhere else, and he ordered a bunch of them.
Because the ears are like, it's got like a kind of radio system in them, so they had to be done separately, and then he orders like a 10,000 of them, and they break.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, another 10,000 of them.
They probably got a stone guy to do the angels for the graveyard,
Yeah.
Maybe that's where the Beaumont money comes from, is creating these friggin' weeping angels things.
Yeah. Now the irony really strikes,
They can't be cheap. So
Poetic
there's money in it.
justice.
I'll tell you, have you guys do you ever remember going through a graveyard at night? Because I used to have to do this like every weekend.
Every weekend? What are you doing there?
It's we used to go up to my friend's house, and it was just the handiest route to cut through the graveyard. But it was one of those that was the worst security. Like, I don't even know why you'd put security on a graveyard, but like they'd close and lock the gates, but like the wall was like to your waist. So you just hop over it. And it's like, well, I guess maybe people could come in and steal stuff from a graveyard, but why? Not in Strabane in the 2000s. Like, you wouldn't care. But yeah, it was. The thing is, it was even. This is all quite well lit. Like, it was kind of terrifying every time going through, because you're always like, it's just pitch black.
Oh yeah, it's horrible, isn't it?
Wow.
And you always have that vibe of like, someone could be in here. It was like, why would there someone be? They wouldn't see anything either, but they could be there. You know?
Phantasm behind you.
I actually think they've done a really good job here of showing how deep a grave is. Because in a lot of movies and shows, they never look 6 feet deep to me. Whereas this, he tries to escape it at one point and he can't, which is realistic. Like, I'm 6'1", and I would have trouble getting out of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was wondering, though, again, was it purposely built to be even deeper than normal, though? Because it's like, I was like, oh, 6 feet. This could be 8 feet, though. Because he's like, say he's like 5 foot something. It still feels like there's a good bit, so maybe it's like that on. Well, again, there's an extra effort for her too. It's like I had to go and build. I had to get the angel made, and then I had to inscribe his name, and they couldn't get that done in time, so I had to let that one go. But and then I had to go on, dig the grave myself, and then make it deeper, and then also probably have to like work out the dimensions of like, well, what if I get him in there, and then a tip over the angel, but the wings are too wide.
No.
So I gotta make sure that it's like it properly. So like if it was like the Batman, with Paul Dano's Riddler, you might find Andrea's like house is like got a bunch of graves in the back garden with other statues tipped into it to test that it worked okay. And like, she's got all these mathematical equations drawn up. It's like, okay, so this ratio should go by this should be the optimal angle to get to hit him with the most force and all that kind of stuff. I guess even too, like the actual weight of the angel, she must have had to have some sort of like little tipping, because you can't just go over and just freaking try to knock over a statue. Like it's...
No, they'll weigh a ton, and they're secured, aren't they?
So the phantasm comes from the screen left, doesn't she? Like moves from the left, and the angel falls in front of the dude. So he must have like maybe tiptoe around or something. I'd love to see that footage. Sneaking around.
Have some security footage that Batman reviews later.
It'd be really bad though. It was just like, farewell, Mr. Bronski, and it just
give me a minute.
He just successfully has dug a hole through the grave out to the other side.
God damn it!
There's got to be a better way.
Well, maybe that's more proof then, Niall, that she did plan this, because she's like loosened the stone.
Yeah, there would have to be. She's got like a little thing underneath that she has to like winch it up or something.
But it does tip very easily. That is something I will say. Again, I know it's an animation, so whatever. But it looks very easy, doesn't it?
Yeah. There are kind of weird sound effects too, though. So it could be like it kind of sounds like it's a kind of like a, which I was just like it's supposed to be generic sound effects of the stone moving, but it could be they're trying to hint at like no, she's got a thing going like.
It's just the actually phantasm struggling to push that thing over. It's just the noise she's making. Probably.
Yeah. It's the noise of the grunts.
Yeah.
Although I was wondering too, like again about the depth of the grave, that like maybe they're trying to like, we wanted Danny DeVito to play this part, so Buzz Bronski's actually incredibly small. that's why he's having trouble.
Oh, yes.
But this made me think that that's currently doing the rounds of you said viral photo of Lucy DeVito, Danny's daughter.
Oh yeah.
With Pedro.
Pedro Pascal, yeah, back in like, and it does my heart good to see that picture.
And what's up
it
with
looks
that
like it's just that it was just I think it was on her Facebook, and she's like she reposted it from like 2008 maybe.
Yeah, but it's her like not private. It's her personal Facebook page, but she's got it like so it's not a private photo.
Yeah, and it's basically like they used to hung out back in the day before he like I'm assuming she was famous because she's Danny DeVito's daughter, but like before he was anything. And it's just like them out in a nightclub and him doing like a little crappy dance. And it's just really like, it looks like a photo, like millions of photos of like me.
Back
in the day. And there's that same sort of texture and the same like the low quality lighting. It's properly before nowadays everything always looks pristine pictures and stuff. It's just like it's digital, but it looks a bit crappy. And it's like it's just and just seeing that I was like, oh yeah, Pedro Pascal, he's just like us. Like,
yeah, it made me love him even more. He's everyone's daddy now.
Yeah. He's living in dread that something bad is going to come out about him because like he seems very charming. Like this is too good to be true.
Something's got to give.
Yeah. No, don't wish it upon him.
Speaking of this guy, it was his name Buzz or something. This mob boss guy.
Yeah, Buzz Bronski.
He kind of has a Marlon Brando look to him. I wonder if they modeled or Marlon Brando and that old gangster that they used to make fun in the Warner Brothers, with the big lips, Bugsy something or other.
Yeah,
see that guy.
Oh, we got kind of Edward G. Robinson.
Edward G.
There you go.
I don't know.
The basis of Chief Wiggum as well. Edward G. Robinson.
I can totally see that. I like this idea. I'm running with it. Headcanon.
I thought it would be one of those ones that'd be like, dare we like instigate anything against Marlon Brando by having a guy look like him? It's like, make him, maybe Ned Beatty him up about another 10% there, and then that's safe.
Yeah, you don't want to anger him.
But yeah, so it did mention though, because what happens to Buzz here is pretty unfortunate, and it did mention that in the original script they had another idea in mind, and I'll just read here directly from the script because the way they put it's pretty good. So basically what happens is the Phantasm knocks Buzz out and he wakes up in the grave. And you hear he has the whole, you always were a loser, Mr. Bronski, and farewell. And he's just like, oh, what the hell? And then the Phantasm disappears, but it's got a rope leading down into the grave. And so he's like, oh, okay. So it says, Buzz looking up angrily. He sees the rope, grabs hold, and starts to climb out. On the other end of the rope, it's tied to a lever of some sort. We're not sure for what yet, although as the rope is tugged, the lever ratchets around another gear, and we suddenly hear a grinding noise, which goes to show that the lever is on a dump truck piled high with dirt. It's parked almost flush to the side of the grave. Buzz has just pulled the lever that is causing the rear to upend, spilling the dirt into the grave. Buzz pushed back down into the dirt. He suddenly realizes he's in big trouble and starts screaming like, "Help, boys!" By now, the dirt is up to his waist and still pouring in. He claws at the sides. So then the two guys come running for them, and eventually they're like, boss! And then we see the grinding abruptly stops to a split second before the bodyguards step into frame. They look ahead in shock. On the now empty dump truck, pan down to show that the pit has been covered in an enormous mound of dirt. Atop the mound is a black wreath intended for Chucky Saul. Sprouting from within it, like a grotesque flower, is Buzz's contorted hand.
Wonder if that's a callback to Nicholson's hand coming out.
Yeah.
It could be like a little subtle thing. Like, we love that movie.
But out there, getting crushed by a big stone angel is pretty bad. But like knowing that you're going to be buried alive, basically, is that what's happened to him.
The way you read that, did he do it himself by mistake?
Yeah, that's real Saw stuff.
Yeah,
like I was trying to think because I opted out of the Saw movies like 3 or 4 ones in. It was just too. Yeah, it was just too gross.
This is
gross
unpleasant.
Yeah. But I do remember this one. I think was like pig slurry. I'm pretty sure they're the same kind of thing of like a guy trying to get out of a vat. It's filling up with like pig innards.
Yeah, that's when I decided to quit. Like I remember I was at a video store watching. Like I was like, oh, Saw 1, Saw 2, whatever. Saw 3, pigs related, and then I remember seeing that scene. I was like, okay, I'm not watching Saw no more. This is just incredibly unpleasant to watch.
I do not blame you one bit. No,
it's not. No. Yeah, it was much more like it's just gross. Yeah. It's not even like kind of creative gross. It's just like no, because it could have been anything. It was like we chose to make it like liquefied pig innards, and it's just like it's really disgusting, right?
Yeah.
And then the rest, I've tried watching the other ones, and like some people stand by the Saw franchise, and I was like, every one I've seen past the first one. The first one's pretty solid. And then the rest of them, like, they're all terrible. And I'm going to say this as a guy who was into terrible horror films, but they're not fun to watch terrible. They're just like, oh, God.
Although didn't they make Jigsaw like a teen? Not a teen. They may have that clip of Jigsaw when it was like, oh, back when I was younger, and to have him with a backwards hat or something.
That's right. Yeah.
Is that real? I thought that was a meme.
No, that's real. That's
Oh.
friggin' 65-year-old friggin' Tobin Bell.
Steve Buscemi thing, yeah.
Oh my god, I kind of like that hubris that they're like, yeah, we can get away with that.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
I don't know.
It's like the people watching these movies are idiots. Let's just let them. They'll never notice.
That's so ridiculous.
But I think that's a way worse. I can see that being like the studio going, because this is like nearly one of the final drafts of the film as well. So I can see the studio being like, okay, we cannot have a guy. The implication being a guy as slowly suffocated to death as he was the kind of hoisted by his own petard.
Yeah.
And then to have his hand sticking out, like his dead, curled hand.
Wow.
Is pretty much, because, in this, like, it's next minute, but like, the implied violence is pretty bad. But they actually see the guy's freaking hand sticking out. It's like, ugh, come on.
Yeah, I do think what they went with was better for a broader audience. Like, it's still horrible, but it's
cheaper
a bit
to
less...
animate too.
Well, it's cheaper, that helps.
Like, get it over with. But you know what it reminds me of a little bit is Dick Tracy with the cement bath. You guys remember that?
It's been a long time since I saw Dick Tracy, which is weird because we know a guy doing Dick Tracy Minute. But
oh yeah,
if I'm ever called to be on it, I'll rewatch Dick Tracy.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was another kind of like a derivative movie based on the '89 Batman, and then
I remember seeing a review saying like, if Dick Tracy jumps through a freaking skylight in this movie, I'm out. And they're like, he did, he freaking did.
Wow.
This is cool though, I think. The way he looks up and he sees that angel looming over him, slowly teetering. Oh, because it made me think
beautifully. I love like when he looks up and it's just a little musical flourish. I'm like,
yeah,
it's so campy, but it's also
really
great.
Cool.
It's cool, right appropriate. I'm like, well, this is like Hammer horror campy. It's not like Adam West campy. So we're kind of doing, there's variations on camp, I guess. And
there is. There's a broad range there.
Beautiful
this
colors,
is the right
too.
kind.
The way that it's framed, and the design of the color choices. I mean, the whole animated series has a lot of that, but this scene in particular, a lot of blues and dark colors.
Yeah, it does really well with demonstrating the night without making it impossible to see.
Yeah.
Like,
because that's actually quite hard, especially with animation and things. Like, you could just make it all black, but then I'm not going to see anything.
Even to speak of Pedro Pascal, apparently people complained that this week on The Mandalorian it was too dark to see.
It was pretty dark. As of recording, what one was? How do you describe that one? It's the one where he goes to Mandalore.
Yeah, it's the first one. I'm presuming there's going to be further episodes set there. It's the first one where he's on Mandalore. Yeah.
I did find it pretty dark, I'll be honest. I was like,
Yeah, but it wasn't like the Game of Thrones bad.
No, nothing's that bad.
But just to show you animation, maybe it's easier because it's like, obviously, like you're gonna make it so you can see the things. Whereas live action, there's like, okay, so how do we make it so you can see these things? We don't really know.
It could be easier in animation, but at the same time, it would be easy to make it look bad. Whereas I think they do great in this, that it still feels like this is the middle of the night, even though we can see everything. It's like
they do start themselves at an advantage with this show because they drew everything on black paper. So it always had this dark texture to everything behind it. Yeah. And so all they had to do is literally lighten up what they already had as a base.
That's clever.
Yeah.
I like it.
Makes a really cool style.
I've always been a bit confused because I've looked in a little bit to the animation process of what they did, both on this movie and in the animated series, because like, as you will know yourself, Jeremy, it's a time-consuming process, animation.
It is.
And people tend to not just do it all themselves because otherwise you'd be there all the time. And so this movie was animated by both Spectrum Animation and Dong Yang Animation. Spectrum did the backdrop work. And Spectrum apparently is like regarded. It's closed now. It was a Japanese company, and it was set up by set up by former TMS Entertainment employees, which is owned by Sega. So it's all the other shows they did were like the Sonic cartoon and things like that, and like they would really go to town. It's almost like everything about it. So like it's almost like stereotypically Japanese in a way, I guess, because
Yeah.
it's like they worked themselves to bankruptcy because they were so dedicated to getting everything right. Like Bruce Timm noted that they were the ones on every single frame of Mr. Freeze's helmet in Heart of Ice. They would carefully airbrush like the little ice particles on it and stuff.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
And apparently they were obsessed with getting things like that in, and that's why it looked so good. But it led to their downfall because eventually took them ages to do anything, and eventually the company ran out of money and stuff.
Yeah.
But then when you go, the show swaps the WB. They made a conscious effort to simplify all the animation and stuff because they did all the background detailing and stuff. They won an award for the episode of Robin's Reckoning because of their dedication to the animation process. But on the other side, there was Dong Yang did a lot of the animation for Mask of the Phantasm. And they also worked on things like Captain N, the Game Master.
Great name.
Yeah. You must remember Captain N though, John. That was the show that was like it was all Nintendo mascots. It was
yeah. Oh, I completely forgot about it. Oh
yes. My God. A kid gets sucked into the computer and then it's him and Mega Man and like
holy crap. We don't have an equivalent of that now. We need something.
Wreck-It
I suppose
Ralph,
we've got
maybe?
Wreck-It
Wreck-It Ralph would be it. Yeah. But like
Ready
it's just
Player One.
it's just ironic though that like one company was owned by the Sega people and the other company was like the ones doing the Nintendo show at the same time.
Yeah. Oh my God, that needs a revisit. I bet it's terrible, but
it is. It's awful. I think it was even awful back then. Like, and even the animation in it was particularly known for being awful.
There's a few things where you can get away with bad animation though. Like I actually quite like the Star Trek cartoon. You know, the old school one. Even though it's made very cheaply.
Oh God, yeah. But they do that old. They have the Hanna-Barbera trick of like having the same shots all the time.
Yeah.
Well, this movie was supposed to be a TV for TV, right? So I was reading an article
straight to video. Yeah, originally, yeah.
They changed the whole aspect ratio and changed all the layout and stuff.
That's a crazy thing. How I don't even understand how that works. Because surely,
just more work.
Have you got to redraw everything? Start from scratch?
You got to redesign. I mean, so if you're framing a shot, you know, if you do like your storyboards, you know, and you're going off like old TV, it's a square, you know, you're positioning everything like you would as a photographer would, right? And then when it switches to widescreen, you got to, I mean, extend the edges, but if you've got extended edges, I mean, you can't just add more from the left and the right. You got to.
It's going to ruin your shot.
Yeah, it's just everything's in the center. It's not going to look good. So it must have been a lot of work.
That's crazy, isn't it? And then, ironically, of course, it didn't do well in the theaters, and it did well on home video.
Yeah, it's like we told you.
It's me, yeah. Someone telling that to Bruce Timm, they'd be like, "Yeah, the irony." But no, just reading about Dong Yang though, it was often paired with Coco Enterprises. It even says on the information page about them that they just basically roped them in together because the companies always work together. But it says Coco was quite often paired with another South Korean studio called Dong Yang Animation, which originated in 1981. They've done a number of projects together. Strangely, both studios haven't been credited on a show since 2005.
Oh, why?
And it's one of these things too that they were like the hardest working animation studio in Korea, and then nobody knows anything about them in the West, and now they're just gone. And it just has like you always have in The Simpsons of always making these jokes about like, oh, the show is animated by like slave labor in Korea.
Yeah,
and you're really like, is it?
Kind of. Well,
it probably is.
No, it kind of is. I mean, that's kind of how, I don't know about now, but you know, they probably had American animators do the keyframes, and then they would send those keyframes over to the other studio to do all the hard work and fill in all those like more difficult. Yeah, but that's the thing, when you're working with studios that are overseas and whatnot, you have to be really clear with your direction, because you know there have been instances where there's a direction in a cartoon to have the sun sets in the ocean, right? So that seems to be standard, but you know, they send it over and the animation comes back from Korea. The image of the sun literally goes into the ocean, you know, because it wasn't clear there's that language barrier, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point. You got to think about the words you're using.
I mean, one in particular though, because that's those two studios. But then there's also on the actual animated series, they have like notorious stories of another Korean animation studio who actually, incidentally enough, animated 200 episodes of The Simpsons as well. ACOM Entertainment. And they got fired from Batman the Animated Series after they did Cat Scratch Fever, which, to be fair, isn't a great episode anyway. But, like, this is one of the Catwoman ones, where it's like there's like, Roland Daggett wants to make all cats feral so he can sell an antidote. It's a really stupid episode, but but yeah, they came back to Bruce Timm, and apparently he just led like, no, this is not acceptable. And he says we retook that show considerably just to make it watchable. It was a mess. We had ACOM reanimate that one from scratch. That was the show that broke our back with ACOM. We said we weren't going to use them any longer. After we fired them, they still had a couple of shows and productions, and those actually turned out okay, I guess. But the amount of quotes that come from, you know, like episode commentaries and stuff about how much they hated ACOM animation was like, when talking about the episode Prophecy of Doom, Bruce Timm says, if that whole end sequence with the spinning worlds and the observatory had gone to Junio or any other studio, it might have come off, but it went to ACOM, and they just weren't able to pull off that level of animation. Each director on the show, after pouring his heart and soul into an episode, would wait with bated breath to see where it would be assigned. And if it was to ACOM, that was the kiss of death. And yeah, but the thing is, not even just ACOM. Like the re-watching the show, it's all great. And it's like all the writing's always spectacular, the voice acting's always spectacular. But there are certain episodes where you're just like, what the hell happened here? Like they've got the style down, but there's an episode, Day of the Samurai, and I think Bruce Timm has said, like, yeah, they ran out of money in that one, so at the end it just looks atrocious. And I'm like, my guy, it looks atrocious from frame one. Like, it's so poorly animated that everybody's off model. Everything just looks like weird and kind of like it's rotoscoped or something. And it's just like, at the end, it has Bruce Wayne like slapping a guy around the face, and it's just like, this just looks like, it looks so rubbery, and you really are. It's like, oh my god, I guess, yeah, you're like, having to deal with all these different studios and stuff. Yeah. You really, I guess you were just like, we just don't know what we're getting back. And now, so I always question, why would you simplify the animation? There was such a beautiful looking show. Why would you redesign everything? That's just stupid. And now looking at it, it's like, oh, that's why.
No, it makes sense. Yeah. I mean, even this movie is a little inconsistent, I think, sometimes, especially in some of the flashback when it's Bruce Wayne. I don't know, the way they drew. I mean, he's supposed to be younger and all that. But yeah, consistency is really important in animation, you know, because it doesn't feel like a cohesive universe otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up the flashbacks. I don't think I've mentioned this. It's not just me, right, who thinks in those flashbacks he doesn't really look younger.
He just looks like thinner. Like a different haircut. Yeah,
he doesn't really. It doesn't look like. That's why the first time I watched it, I was a bit confused. I was like, "Have we gone back in time? What's going on? What's happening?"
They did the Nick Fury de-aging filter.
Yeah. Well, I was talking off mic with Niall there. I just watched The Irishman. And that, of course, famous for its de-aging.
Yeah.
I actually liked it. I know Niall makes fun of it, but I thought that worked well, you know.
Hey, paint houses. How about you?
It's the scenes of Joe Pesci going like, hey, come here, kid. It's just like, this man is clearly, not only is he not a kid, he's the same age as you, old man Pesci. Like, what the hell?
He's dressed as young Jigsaw.
I did constantly keep an eye out though, because now you told me what ruined it for you. I'm sure you mentioned this. It wasn't that the effects were bad. It was that he moved like an old man.
Yeah.
And I just kept looking for it. I was like, yeah, look there, he's moving like an old guy.
It's that bit where he beats up the guy outside the supermarket. It's like this. There's the guy pretending to be like, like throwing himself around the floor, and it's just De Niro giving these little like old man kicks. It's like there's no force to that.
Like, where'd you get that cane?
That'd be great though if they actually had to reanimate all the flashbacks in this, because all they had done was drawn Bruce Wayne with a backward baseball cap.
Yes.
It's like, I remember when Master Bruce had that backwards baseball. It was during the Lip Biscuit heyday.
He was totally radical.
He looked like Poochie from The Simpsons.
Oh, yes. That's the only thing to improve this. Put Poochie in it.
Like the odd time they forgot to do it, so you just see random shots of Bruce Wayne with a red baseball cap.
Well, now that's a T-shirt project for you to come up with. We're going to do a shirt for everybody that's the poster for this, but Poochie's there.
Mask of the Poochazers.
Oh, yes. Do it. I've just realised I never finished saying something I was saying before as well, ages ago, about 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. It was with the angel. I thought that it kind of really worked, that it's almost like he is seeing the angel of death, the one that the Phantasm keeps calling themselves. It's symbolic, isn't it? Bronski knows he's
that would
done.
add into the idea that Andrea is this was a purposeful trap. That was, otherwise it's going to be someone come along like, get out of my son's grave, you awful man. The Bozos eviscerated corpse underneath.
Well, that's the thing. Despite me saying earlier, it's got to be a coincidence, the more we're talking about it, the more it's becoming obvious that this is a plan. It's got to be a plan. It's the angel of death.
Maybe she was always planning to do, like Chucky saw. The guy had a whole thing with an angel set up too, but I didn't think he was going to get into the car. So it kind of ruined everything.
I'll just reuse it for someone else.
Yeah. She could I wasn't supposed to be called the Phantasm. I was supposed to be called the Angel Smother or something like that.
Angel Crusher.
Angel Crusher. Yeah, it could be I had a whole elaborate pulley system with another angel statue that was designed to fall on Chucky. So that's when he goes in to kill Salva. Less later, you don't see in the background she's dragging an angel statue. Salva. Oh, your angel of death.
Now, when I first watched this, I didn't like one of the lines that comes up. But then in rewatching it, taking notes and things, I realized, it's a callback. It's when our evil spirit here says, "You were always a loser, Mr. Bronski." Because it sounded too normal. Like a spooky spectre wouldn't call you a loser.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I realized it is a callback to what Buzz said.
Yes, yeah.
And so then I was kind of like, I like that a bit more now. It kind of does work for me.
My only note on that would be, he said it literally a minute ago when he was out in the open, and so the Phantasm was just hiding behind a tree or whatever, and I was just throwing back his line to him, and it kind of works in that EC Comics way I was talking about last week, where it was it's kind of this is almost comeuppance for him for desecrating the grave, saying this is the consequences of mocking the dead. But I would have preferred if it was maybe he had there was a scene of him sitting in the car and he says you always were a loser, because then you'd be how did the Phantasm know he said that? It would have made it a little bit spookier to me. Had he, maybe there had been a scene prior, him reading about death in his office, and he said it then.
Yeah.
Or before he was out in public, he said that as supposed. It'd be like The Exorcist, where they talk about Father Karras is the devil's everywhere, and then Reagan repeats one of the things a homeless guy said to one of the priests in the subway, and does it in the exact voice. And it's the devil's everywhere. They can hear everything. That's that's a creepy moment in The Exorcist. So I would have liked it had it been it been in a scenario where it's the Phantasm shouldn't have been able to hear that kind of thing. But
that would have been cool. Yeah.
Yeah. That's my only beef.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, we see that depth I was on about before at play, because, he can't climb out as the Phantasm emerges from the fog and looms over him. Oh. But then, of course, they vanish. And he brushes his brow. He's like, phew. Does he really think that's the end of it? He's like, I got away with that. It's that clearly something's about to happen.
Yeah.
He's well, I outsmarted them.
Yeah.
That was a close one.
Hide in this grave, they'll never find me.
Genius tactic. But that's when that statue comes a-tumbling.
Yeah, that's when Bronski's about to get beat.
Oh! I love it.
I do love that detail. That stayed with me from when I was a kid. I always remember loving him clawing at the grave. Because it's so fruitless. It's it must be really, you kind of, the animation's that good, you kind of get a sense that it's been a wet day or something, and the ground must be really moist, so he's not even got proper, it would already be tough to try to claw your way out of a grave, but the fact that it'd be wet soil as well, there's no purchase whatsoever. And I love it as a detail. I think that's very, very well done.
You can see the texture too, everywhere. There's that. I guess it must be the paper. I know they use dark paper to put their pastels on, but you can even see the grain of the paper like everywhere on the backgrounds, except for, of course, the cell characters. But yeah, that grain is everywhere. It's kind of interesting.
It's really cool, isn't it? I like that.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess maybe he might be thinking like it could be if Andre is going for like the Joker does later say like he looked more like the ghost of Christmas future. Like it could be maybe Buzz is thinking like, oh, this was like a warning, like the Ghost of Christmas Future, where you're like, well, now's your chance to change your ways, Buzz. I'll let you live this time. So he's like, oh, when I get out of this grave, I'm only going to be good and helpful to all men.
I could see it does have a Scrooge vibe to it. This whole minute.
Yeah. I would love he's in there with like a little nightcap and the candle. I'm like, oh, no.
I've always wanted a nightcap and a candle by my bed, just so I can go around doing that.
Although your house is like, I think you need to be living in like a cavernous, huge kind of like going down the stairs if you're kind of like modestly sized house. It's like it doesn't have the same theatricality to it.
Don't ruin my image for the listeners now. They think we're millionaires.
Yeah, the nightcap.
Throwing around all that Patreon money, having money fights.
Yeah, that Patreon money bought me this 30-bedroom house.
But yeah. I think Buzz does have a little bit of like, oh, I think I got away with it, and then just nope. And again, I love that. I just love all the people know me. I love a good ominous foreshadowing and stuff. And so I love all the close-ups of just like the Phantasm's weird hand axe hook thing.
Yeah,
as it's coming, like it just has the shot of the angel and it just cuts like that going past the screen. And I love that too. Like you see the smoke fade away. And then to indicate the Phantasm hasn't left, the smoke just gathering around the statue before it starts to move. And it's like, yeah, this is good. This is, theatricality and deception are powerful allies. So it's top tier kind of stuff for me. That's what I think is one of the best movies, one of the best minutes in the movie, quite frankly. But
Agreed.
Yeah, it's all self-contained too, which I like. It has like a little intro, beginning, middle, end.
Yeah, because then
story.
the end is the goons arriving and then like capping off their sort of little arc here and being like, oh,
yeah.
What are they going to find? Remains.
The remains of the day. Was that Michelle Pfeiffer? That's not Michelle.
Maybe, I don't know.
I'm going to say yeah, but I'm guessing. I'll be honest.
Let's go to Google quick. Because I know there's a movie with Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Goff. But it's one of those period pieces from back in the early 90s, and it is Remains of the Day. No, it's Emma Thompson and Anthony Hopkins. That's like completely different. The Age of Innocence, I think, is the one. Is that the one I'm thinking of? I'm sure someone will tell us in the listeners' game, I'm sure. I remember watching it because like, oh, Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Goff are in it together, and then been like, they don't do anything together, and I hate period dramas. Like, I just hate them so much. So. Oh. But yeah, I'm noted out for a minute 19. Has anyone got anything else specific to the minutes to bring up? Or
it's everything for me.
Yeah. Jeremy, because you're only here for this 1 minute this week because we're such a shorter movie. We're having to like start compacting people into like multiple guests in a week and stuff.
Yeah.
But we do always ask the guests though because it'll be particularly interesting coming to you since you're a man who pursued this as a career. But about the cartoons of their childhood, because obviously this was a show most people of like our age group kind of grew up on. But like, what else were you into back then?
Well, I mean, this was I love Batman. It's my favorite, and this was definitely. I also like the redesign animated series when they came back with the more streamlined design. In some cases it works, in some other cases not as much. Like I like the way they did the Scarecrow and when they redesigned the Scarecrow. I thought that was really awesome how they did it. And that's
literally looking at a figure of that Scarecrow right now as we speak. So.
Like he doesn't appear much except for like 1 or 2 episodes in that form. So I think that was a real loss there.
I think that was one of the notes too that they made about like I think it was Dong Yang animation where like they sent off an episode with the Scarecrow, and they came back and they had changed his posture.
Why?
Because they were just like, he just looks better like this, so we're drawing him like this, and they're like, but that's not the model we sent you. Like,
oh, you got to stand up straight.
Yep.
That's ridiculous, though. You don't go changing things.
That's someone over there just thinks that we know better. What are they going to do? Make us redraw it? So
Yeah.
Well, I guess that eventually did happen with ACOM, where they're like, yes, you will redraw this. So.
But I've always loved this. Also, of course, Batman Beyond. I don't know if you'll ever go over that Return of the Joker movie. I think that's even better than this one.
Oh, wow. To hear people say it's better. We'll definitely, I think that'll be one of the highest episodes, at least. We'll definitely be covering that.
Yeah.
In some shape or form. Whether it be in chunks or just as a general review. But it's definitely worth going through as a film. It's excellent stuff.
It's just great, you know. I just love everything animated. Not everything animated, but I just love the culture behind it and all the work that goes into it, and I think it's really, really cool. And I love the homage to old times, even when they made it 30 years ago in the 90s. You know, still an homage to classic film noir and that sort of stuff. And
yeah, that's the best bit, isn't it? Like the vibe, the aesthetic, the weird world.
Yeah.
I was really kind of hoping you'd say, though, like, my main influence for animation was Captain N, the Game Master.
Honestly, never seen that.
Oh, it's worth looking up just to see. Like, it was the villain. I remember it was like a face smeared. It was every character in it was like a thing from a Nintendo game.
So Mario was in it? So they had...
No, I don't think they did. They didn't have the big wigs of Mario. They had Link and Zelda showed up in one episode. That was kind of one of the famous things of it. But
okay, they're big names then. Okay, I thought it was all going to be like the C-listers.
What was the name of the villain? Was like, let's see, Mother something. What was the Mother Brain from? Mother Brain was like, but Mother Brain was a character. It was a really grotesque face stretched across. Like it was kind of like something out of Brazil or something. It was horrible. But it was voiced by the guy who did Audrey 2 in the Little Shop of Horrors remake.
Holy crap.
Wow.
But Mother Brain's from Metroid, I think.
Well, yeah, there you go. That'll be it. Yeah, Metroid. But yeah, so it's just like it always every time. I don't really have a lot of memories of watching Captain N back in the day, but like any clips I've seen of it in recent years, you always hear that voice, and it's just like, "Oh, feed me, Seymour!" Like it's really like, holy Christ, you do not mistake that voice for someone else's. I'll tell you that.
That's a unique voice.
Now, is that the same guy who did the Oogie Boogie and Nightmare Before Christmas? I haven't cross-checked it. It sounds similar. I don't know if it's the same.
That's actually a great question. They do sound similar. I'm not sure.
I always thought Oogie Boogie was like an old jazz singer.
Well,
like
Cab Calloway, like kind of based on Cab Calloway. I know a lot of
Is an Audrey too?
No, I don't. Let's look it up. It says
I think they might be different guys.
Yeah, the same vibe, definitely. Yeah. But because I don't think Boogie, he never speaks, that he only sings. So they probably did we got in a singer. People got in a kind of guy who can do a Cab Calloway kind of thing. You know?
Here we go. Audrey 2's also a singer. It's Levi Stubbs, baritone singer, best known as the lead vocalist of the R&B group The Four Tops.
Oh, wow. Holy, for the Four Tops. Jesus Christ. It was me just like not ignoring all that about his career. Yeah, he was freaking Mother Brain from Captain N.
Yeah, the Four Tops, one of the biggest R&B groups of all time.
It was me just meeting them. It's like, I know, I remember you. Your show stinked.
You were terrible in that.
Have you ever seen the movie or heard of the movie Forbidden Zone?
Oh yeah!
It was amazing. Yeah. I think you showed. Did you show me it? No, it was our friend Kitty. I think.
Yeah, I think that was one that had been frequently played in the background in Kitty's house. Yeah. But yeah, I think we did. We talked about Forbidden Zone during the Elfman years because like delving into where Oingo Boingo came from was like, it's a great movie, but it's like
it's weird. Yeah, it's
a weird movie.
Yeah, it's a low budget.
Like it's technically not good, but it's fascinating.
It's definitely really cool. But I love that. That whole vibe of the Max Fleischer kind of style, which I know what Bruce Timm worked on Tiny Toons before Batman. And I'm sure the Max Fleischer stuff, because they had the Max Fleischer Superman, and they used those shorts as a kind of a jumping off point. How would you animate Batman? And maybe get those human, like those real proportions, but that cartoony movement, which is kind of cool. They captured that.
Yeah, but they're all been remastered and reissued on Blu-ray. Max Fleischer's Superman, because I know people were very excited about, like, it looks amazing. Like, it just looks so pristine because they've cleaned up every frame of it and stuff. So.
That's awesome. But we will head off then into the dark night. Jeremie, would you like to tell people where you can be found online, or promote anything that you have coming up? Whatever you like.
You can find me, probably best place would be through Instagram. It's Robot Jeremie. It's spelled like a robot with the Jeremie's a French spelling, so Jeremie. A little different there. But cool. On there you got my link tree, so you got all the other links. You got links to my YouTube. You got all my animations there, and any kind of art that I've been putting out there. So yeah, you could find me there.
Hey, do that, everybody. Check all of that out, as always. And you can find us in the usual places. Facebook, the Bat Minute Listeners Cave. We're on all of them. Just type it in, Bat Minute. I don't think anything else comes up. We're the only one. We're the original, baby. But there will be another minute. It'll be coming soon. It'll be coming on Wednesday, people. We're going to be up to minute 20. We're all the way there. That's basically the end of the film. We're done, right?
It was the Buzz Bronski Mask of the Phantasm. Yeah. So now we're wrapped up.
Bronski minutes.
Bronski,
see you soon.
We hardly knew you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, R.I.P. Buzz Bronski. We're out of here. Peace out, people. Mwah. See you on Wednesday with more Bat Minutes.
Next time, wholly aghast, gasping Batman. A couple of heat-packing escorts discover a crushed Costa Nostra casserole before clocking a cloaked killer fleeing across the grassy knoll. But while it seems Buzz Bronski's final bell has been rung, could this news cause a decrepit colleague to cough up a lung? Take a deep breath and count down till Wednesday, Bat fans. Same Bat pod, different Bat Minute.
Must top top, die Phantasm.